So today we are looking at arrays in PHP, and close to the end of the class you're going to see the reason why we are looking at it before we proceed with this project. So I'll create a file. I can call it maybe array.php. So what are arrays? That's the next thing I want to look at. Arrays are containers that allow us to store multiple items in that same container. So because there are sometimes that you want to keep multiple values inside the same box. For instance, I want to create an array. I want to store names, maybe names of students. So one thing you can use in that case is you can use an array. Names. So you can say names equals to $names, equals to. For you make use of this square braces. This tells PHP that this is an array. So I can store multiple names there. I can say, let's say Taye Kende Ido. So here is an array. If I echo this, now, okay, expecting, oh, sorry. So let's run this on the browser. So that to be of type string. Okay, it's saying it's expect this to be of type string, and or you can use the var_dump, or you can convert it to string. You can force it to string. I think we've looked at how to forcefully convert an item to a string. If you want to forcefully convert it to a string, let's first see the error message so that we understand what we are doing. Now let's run it on the browser. You say localhost this. So instead of this being first now, this will be a second place. DB class, okay? DB class, then slash array.php. So you have this array to string conversion in this. What it's just saying is that this echo is meant to echo out a string, but this is an array, so for that reason it's unable to. So you can forcefully convert it to a string, at least for the sake of displaying it outside there. To forcefully use the JSON encode names. So what it's going to do is that at this point it will convert whatever is inside of it to a JSON string, to a string. So now we can have it on the screen. So here is my array on the screen. Sorry for digressing. We did something like this in JavaScript. You can tell me the equivalent of this JSON encode in JavaScript?
Stringify.
Good, thank you so much. JSON stringify. Good. So that's the same thing that this does in PHP. Let's proceed. Now, I want to display the first item in this array. Arrays are 0 indexed. That means the first item in an array is at position 0. The second is at position 1. The third is at position 2. On and on like that. So, this first item, we don't, instead of calling these things positions, we call them index. So we say the first item is at index 0. This is at index 1. This is at index 2. So you want to display the first item, you say the name of the array, then you put 0. Square base is 0. That means tell me the value that is at position 0, that is at index 0. This will give me Taye. This is very similar to the one we did in JS also. So we have Taye here. If you want to see Ido, this will be 2. So we have Ido. Any question before we proceed? Please, any question?
No, sir. For my.
Okay. Now, sometimes you want to store values inside your array, but you don't want to store the positions. Right? You want to use something more descriptive to store it. That leads us to something called associative array. Let me explain something. If you are familiar with JavaScript, associative array is like JavaScript objects. Is like JavaScript objects. Now let's come back to PHP now. If you want to make use of a key to retrieve your values, that instead of knowing that Taye is at index 0, Kehinde is at index 1, Idowu is at index 2, you want to make use of key names. You want to make use of things that will be easier for you to remember. For instance, maybe I want to store information about a particular person. Right. So maybe I can have variable person equals to this like this. So I want to store the name of this person. I want to store the department of this person. I want to store maybe the school of this person. Let's say someone is about to join the class. You are welcome to class. So if I want to display the name, I can say echo $person index 0, and that's going to give me Taye, which is fine. But then it may not be easy always needing to cram the positions. So instead I can use a key, something that will be easier for me to remember than positions. So I can say I want the name. You come here, you get a key, you say name. That is, I want the name of this person to be Taye. Add another key again here. I want the department of this person to be CSC. You come here and add another school. I want the school of this person to be Lautech. So with this now, let's put some little space for the sake of readability. So now this is easier to remember. That is, if I want to fetch Taye now, I can just say name. So that's going to give me Taye. If I want to fetch CSC, I'll come here and say department. If I want to fetch Lautech, I'll come here and put school. So this makes it easier to remember than storing position in your head. Any questions so far? Can we proceed?
Yes.
Alright, thank you. So let's run it on the browser. So there we have Lautech. So we've seen how to use associative array in our codes. Now I want to see how to deal with passwords in our codes also. Because when you're storing data, in our last assignment, I asked us to store data to store some data in your database. Look at this password. Now this is risky. You don't store passwords like this in your database. You need to hash it before storing it in your database. So let's discuss what is password hashing. How do you hash your password? After you've hashed it, how do you retrieve the password also? That's the next thing we are looking at. So I'll comment out these ones. Hashing is a one-way process, not a two-way. It's a one-way. What that means is that you can convert your text password to an hashed password, but you can't convert the hashed password back to the text password. If you don't get it, let's look at an example together. If you take your cassava, right, or your yam, and you grind it to become yam flour, to become a flour, can you convert the flour back to your yam?
No.
Alright, thank you so much. So that is one-way conversion. That is, you can convert your yam to become a flour, but your flour cannot be converted back to become YAM. That is one-way process, and that's the way hashing works here also. You can convert your real word. For instance, I can say I want to hash this word Taye. After I've hashed it, it can become something like this. It will become a very long text. Some jargons, it will become something like this. Right? But there's no way I can convert this back to Taye. So that means it's one-way hashing, and this is for security reasons. That is, in case peradventure someone is asking a question. But it's asked for Agro, yeah. Okay, we'll talk about that also. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, we can convert this to this, but you can't convert this back to this. Hashing is a one-way process. It's a one-way process. Now, the reason that is important is because in case someone has access to your database, let's assume someone has access to this database, and what you store in your database will not be text. The user might type Taye, right? But what you store in your database will be this long text. It's going to be longer than this, very long. So this is what you store in your database, 090G, whatever, all of that. That is what you store there. Such that in case someone even sees that long text, the person cannot convert it back to Taye. Do we understand that explanation?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So at the point of registration, the user will type a readable text, what the user understands. But when it gets to you, when it gets to your code will convert it to some very random text. Then you store the random text in your database. When it is stored in your database, in case someone has access to your database, the person cannot convert that random text back to the original text. Now, the reason that must not be possible is because most people use the same password across different applications. So meaning that if your password is compromised in one application, or if a user password is compromised in one application, it can be used elsewhere. But if you hashed it, even peradventure it is compromised or someone has access to your database, the person cannot get the original text back. So that is why we are doing one-way hashing. In fact, hashing is generally one way. Let's move on. To hash now, let's say you have a text. I can call it, this is what the user supplied. For instance now, let's say the text is Taye, like this. If you're hashing it, you are going to use a PHP method. We call it hashing. You say, is it password hash now? Hash password. Password hash. Yeah. This. The first argument it takes is the text you want to hash. So in this case, I'm going to pass this here, text. The second argument it takes is the algorithm that you're going to make use of to hash this password. Now, there are a lot of hashing algorithms. And you know, let me say a Yoruba balance. What that means is that as we developers, as we keep improving, so also hackers, people trying to break into our systems, are also improving. And as they also improve, we also must keep improving. Do we get it? As they improve, we must improve. As we also improve, they also improve their own technology. So we have a lot of hashing algorithms that may change over time. Because if one hashing algorithm is compromised, then another one will be released to quickly fix that part. So they keep improving it for us. Now, instead of specifying one hashing algorithm, you can use something called password default. Password default. Password underscore default. So let's discuss why you are using this. This is going to use PHP default algorithm. So if a new one is released and is, let's say the previous one is compromised and a new one is released, this password default will always be the most recent one. Do we understand this? Do you get it?
Yes, yes.
All right, thank you. So you can, of course, you can use a specific one, but like I said, you can look at the message. This may change in newer PHP release when newer, stronger action algorithm are supported. It is worth noting that over time, this constant can change and no longer. So as technology improve, also they will keep improving it. So it's good to use this password default instead of using a specific action algorithm. Now, after you've hashed it, you want to save this in a variable that is the result of the action. Let's just call it results. And let's echo it so that you see what this simple text Taye has turned to. Echo results. So we go to your browser and you check. This is my browser here. Refresh. Can you see this text now? So this is what Taye has turned to. The good thing about this is that if this same text, if you hash it, like if you run the same code again, it's going to give you another text again, not the same text. And that is very important because if it keeps giving you the same result, then meaning that it will be easy to decode it, right? It will be easy to. If you refresh now, you have a different text. The same Taye is being converted to different text every time. So it is this long text that you are going to save in your database. So the user will supply his or her password, you hash it, and you store the hashed password in your database. So let's do that in our code here. So at this point, you are getting the password here. Let's hash it. You can get a variable. You can say hashed password. You say that is equals to password hash. You pass the variable password here. You say password default. Then instead of saving this in your database now, instead of saving at the position of password, instead of saving this variable password, now you're going to save variable hashed password. Why is it not bringing it up? I expect it to search. Okay, don't know why it's not bringing it up. Hashed underscore password. Okay, good. So I'll go to my database and delete all the data there. Then now we make use of this hashed password. Something is very important. When you get to your database, the length. Remember when you try to create a table in your database, and in that table it asks for the length. For this password, the length must be able to accommodate what you are getting. I think this is, maybe this is around maybe 40 characters or so. So this, if your, okay, the length here is 50. Yeah, the length here is 50. Now, if what you are sending is not up to 50 characters, it will cut it off. So you can make this maybe to be about 100 or so, or you can check the length of the generated password and use it, but 100 should be able to handle whatever you are sending in. So you can edit this and make it to be 100 characters. So let's change it. You come under change, you change the length to be 100, you save it. Then you want to delete all the data that has been inserted so far. Delete. So there's nothing there now. Now we can insert our data and we check the results together. Please, any question?
Thank you. What about if you want to save radio button like gender and all this checkbox
Okay.
database?
Just use the name, and in your database you can just use maybe Y or N. If it is 2, you can use Y. If it is 4, you can use N, or you can use 12, or you can use a boolean also. Just get a column, just like these ones. You can call it gender. For if the person is male, you can use M, female, F, depending on how you want it to be. Just get a column. Do you get it?
Okay, yes.
Uh-huh. Okay, so we are looking at index.html. So we go back to the browser, we go to the index.html. So we fill in this data, password. So I just put 4 characters there. When I save it now, we have registration successful. When you go to your database and you refresh, those first 4 characters has become this. Now, there's a problem, which is to log in. The user does not know that you've converted the password to this long text. So when the user wants to log in, the user will still supply what he or she supplied at the point of registration, not this, because of course the user does not know. Right? So let's handle the login here part. So let's get a page to log in. If there's any question, please do not hesitate to ask. So I just come here, copy the content of this, go to this, paste, remove the first name and the last name. So we only have email and password left. So we can go to, when we submit this form, we are sending it to maybe login.php. So that means we need to create a file called login.php. So let's do that together. So this looks like that of the process. We just copy 1 or 2 things here. I'll copy this part, everything here. Copy, paste. Now, of course, it's the same request method, but this time around, we are not getting the first name and the last name. We are only interested in the email and the password. Now, this password, you are not hashing it again because remember, the user has already hashed it before storing it. Like you've already hashed it before storing it in your database. What you need to do is this: before the user can log in, you want to check if this email and the password, if they exist in your database. So what you're going to do is that you come here, you come to this query. This query is to insert, but we are not inserting, so we're going to write another query. You want to select. To understand what you are doing, I will come here and want SQL query. Sorry, I want to look at this here. Username, sorry, email. What email did we use the other time? ajayi@gmail.com. Good. So select all from student where email equals to ajayi@gmail.com. So when you run this, this is going to select that particular user that owns this email address. So press go. So we have this, it has selected this user for us. If no user has that email address, let's say, let me just say taya@gmail.com. You can see it's not selecting anything. But we are not just interested in email alone. We also want to check the password. That is, email is so and password is so and so. So and password is. Now you can't put the user's password there because remember, in your database you do not have the user's password there. So to do that, we first come here and say select this column here. Please, are you with me?
Yes.
This column here is password. The column here is password. Say select password from the table name is what's the table name? Students. Let's let's capitalize this from students, where email is equal to variable email. So this will just fetch the password for us. If you run this command in your code, in your share, you only get the password here. Oops. Let's go. So what actually have it? You can see we only have this password, so that is what we are interested in. We want to fetch just the password alone. So let's go back. Whatever you fetch now, you can save it in a variable. You can call it maybe fetched password. Fetch password. So this will fetch it for you. Then after fetching it, it's going to fetch. You can fetch it as an associative array. Remember we looked at associative array. So if you want to fetch it as an associative array, you're going to use something called fetched assoc. Fetch assoc. After fetching it, it will convert it to an associative array. So you can say fetched password. Fetch does not have C here. Sorry. Fetched password. Fetch assoc. It will fetch whatever you have here as an associative array. You can save it in a variable. You can call it maybe hashed password equals to this. So now this is an associative array. The associative array will look like this. It will now have a column. What happens is that it's going to look like this. It will now have the column here is password, and the value will now be this long text. Do we get it, or are we confused?
Please come again, sir.
Alright, so let's go over this part again and use a better example that will make us understand better. Now, when you run this command, select password. Don't let us use password. Let's just say select all from students where email equals to email. Now, this is going to fetch these three things for you. It's going to fetch the student ID, the first name, the last name, the email, and the password. It's going to fetch all of them for you. Whatever it is being fetched becomes this variable here. Do we understand that part? Let's remove this one for now. Do we get that part?
Yes.
So it's going to be the information of the person that owns that email address. Now, but what you're going to fetch, what is going to fetch for you is not something that you can make use of here in PHP. Right? You want to convert it to something that you can utilize in PHP. So in this case, we are fetching this result. We are converting it to an associative array. So you now say $results fetch assoc. So what it's going to do is that whatever it is being fetched here will be converted to an associative array, such that your result will now look like this. You have a column here called student ID. Student is it underscore now underscore ID. Then what's the value of that of this user? 4. It will have another column called first name, and the value will be Ajayi. It will have another column called last name, and the value will be, the reason is you are seeing first name and last name is because these column names, this is student ID, and that is why this is also student ID. This is first name, and that's why this is also first name. This is last name, so this what you have will be Johnson. Then email what you have there will be ajayabi@gmail.com. Then password, well, what you have there will be this long text. Let's copy this here. Do we understand this? When you run this fetch assoc, this is what it will convert it to an associative array, to a PHP associative array. Do we get it?
Yes.
Alright. So you want to save this in a variable, so I can call it, what should I call it? Maybe converted result or something. So converted result will look like this. But in our case, we are only interested in the password for now, just this password. So I can say that we've seen how to get the values of an associative array. So I can say $converted result. I'll just pick the column password. So this will just fetch out the column password for us. So that column password will now be the same as the hashed password that we got here. Do we understand this now? It will be the exact thing that we stored in our database in the first instance. Good. So that's what you're trying to do. But we only need this password, just the password alone. So there is no point trying to say fetch all from students. We can just say fetch password because we only need that column password alone. So select password from student where email equals to this email. Then convert it to an associative array. We're going to see some other methods as we move on. Aside this fetch assoc, we're going to see fetch all, we see fetch array, a lot of other methods that we're going to see as we move on. But for now, we are making use of this fetch assoc because we are converting it to an associative array. So it's still the same thing, but in this case now, since we are not saying all, the result that will be fetched for you will now look like this. All of this will no longer be there. It will just have only password inside of it, and this will be what you have there. So this will be the value of converted result. Converted result will look like this. But I'm only interested in the password inside of it, right? I can now say hashed password equals to this converted result. You are picking out the password there. So meaning that hash password will just be like this now. That is what I just saying is that hashed password will be this. This becomes hashed password. Any questions so far? Alabi Sunday, Michael Adekolejo. Please, are we following? I've been hearing Jadi Salah's voice alone at this one. Okay.
Yeah, we are following.
Okay, is that also encryption? Yes. Now, but let's talk about the little difference between encryption and hashing. Oftentimes, encryption is usually two-way. That is, when you encrypt, you can decrypt. But hashing is one way. Do we get it?
Yes.
Alright. So what you are doing here, because of the sensitivity of this, we are using this one. We are using hashing because of how sensitive the password is. Let's move on. Now, we are going to remove all of this here. No, I think we have done all of this. Next, we need to explain some things. Login.php, which error is here? I'm coming. I want to figure out where the error is coming from. Oh, I've seen it. It's on this line. So let's move on. Let's go back to this our array.php and continue. The other time, we've been able to hash it and we saw the result of the hashed password. But when it's time to display it, like I said, the user does not know. I hashed Taye and it became some random text. When it's time to log in, the user will still supply that same Taye, right? So how do you now convert it, or how do you show that, oh, it is that same text that was supplied at the registration that the user is now using to log in? That brings us to an inbuilt method also called password verify. Password verify. So you say password verify. It's inbuilt. And it's going to take a text. In this case, I can say text, this variable text. And this will now be the hashed password. In this case, this will be result. So if it's able to know that this text is hashed to this now, it will tell you it's going to return true. But if not, it's going to return false. So this Taye here was hashed to become result. So when you say password verify and it sees that they are the same, this is going to give us true, else it's going to give us false. So instead of Taye here, I'll just put another text here. In fact, I'll just put TAY. I'm not going to put the E. And when you run this, this will tell you false. Let's echo out this result. Copy this to another page. So you're not seeing anything because it's giving you false. If it were to be the same, when you refresh now, you see 1. This is 2. Do we get it? But if it's not the same, in fact, an empty space like this means they are not the same. We have false. It's not giving us the same thing. So meaning that they are not the same. But if it's the same, you have 2. That is 1. Any question? So we continue from this place, login.php. We say if password verify the password, that is the one that the user is trying to use to log in, the password. If it's the same as this hashed password, remember this hashed password is the one in our database. Then you can say just echo maybe login successful. Else echo incorrect login. Else echo incorrect login. So when you come back here and where's our login page? I think we call it login.html. So let's come here and say gmail.com. I think I entered 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. Good. Login successful. Oh, I didn't remove this path. Okay. Login successful. But if the password is wrong, incorrect login. What if this email does not exist? We have some error. So let's see what is going on and let's fix this also. Let's fix it. So to fix this part, if the email does not exist, what we want to do is that before you do all of these things here, you want to check if that email exists in your database at all. If it does not exist, you don't even want to disturb yourself doing all of this. So we can come here and say there's an inbuilt function in our inbuilt property called num_rows, that is number of rows. Now what you are doing here is, let's run this again in our terminal or in our database so that you understand what I'm saying much better. I'll come here and say ajayi@gmail.com. When you run this, this will give you just 1 row. This is 1 row. Now, if the email does not exist, I just change part of it. And we want this becomes 0. It's not going to fetch anything. You can see that is 0 rows. So we can now go to our code and check the number of rows fetched. If it is greater than 0, then that is when I want to disturb myself doing all of this. But if not, just tell me user not found or something like that. Do we get it? Do you understand this? Hello, are we there?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. If it's greater than 0, so let's mute our mic. So if it's greater than 0, then I want to do all of this. So I'll put all of this there. Else, you can echo maybe user not found. User not found. So with this now, you'll be able to log in successfully. And if it's not there, it will just give you user not found. So come back here. Now echo email that does not exist. Like enter email that does not exist. What you have now will be, oh, this for registration. Sorry, this for registration. For login, but if you enter this now, user not found. Please, any question so far? In absence of question, let's look at one more thing today. There is another problem. I don't know if we are seeing a problem that may come up. Imagine two persons registered with the same email address. Two persons registered with the same email address. Now this should not be possible. Let's say 0 is. So this should not be possible, but this will be successful in our own case. Registration successful. Because when it's time to log in, you will encounter some problems. When it's time to log in, you will encounter some problems because at the point of logging in, you are fetching select password from student where email equals to $email. In fact, this is what I will do. I will run this in the database here, and you're going to see what I'm saying. Good. Select password from student where email equals to ajayi@gmail.com. Now, two users have that same email address now. When you run it, it's going to fetch the two of them. So who among them is trying to log in? Who among them? In fact, in this case, if you only pick the first one, the second person will not be able to log in at all. So what you're going to do is that we only make it possible for a user to only be able to register if that email does not exist. So to do that, we need to make some adjustment to our table. You go back to your structure. Before then, I want to delete all of these persons, all of this data here, because this adjustment will cause some little conflicts here because this email address has been duplicated, but I want to set it as unique. So you go to under structure, you want to edit this email, change. Under displays, I'm coming scroll. I want to scroll it to it. Defaults should be not here. Not here. I'm coming. Oh, okay. I think I know where it should be. Go back to structure. Now, come to more. Yeah, I think it should be here. More. Unique. You select unique. So now two users cannot register with the same email address again. You can see there's a key here. We'll talk about keys later. There's a key here now, so that if two users try to register with the same email address, this will not allow it. Now, if it's a new table, let's say a new table, let's call it another student. I'll just call it another student. And you have the student ID just like before. I'll delete this table later. Email, and I want this email to be unique. You come here, you select unique here. If it's a new table, this is how you do it. Then you press go. So it will set it as unique. But if it's an already existing table, you do it the way we did it just now. Right? You go back to that. You go to the structure. You go to this place. You click on unique, and you select it as unique. Any question? Okay, so in terms of question, let's try to do this. Register, let's go back here. Register for this, we register this user. If I put another person here now, I say this will not be successful. We have an error. Now, assignment. Fix this. Instead of you just displaying this, telling me duplicate entry and the likes, of course, user should not see this. Instead, you should display a message that says that email already exists. Email already exists. That's one. Then the second is that there should be another page. That when you go to that page, it is going to fetch all the first names of your user and it will display them on that page. You can use a list tag like HTML list tag. You can use that. Just display all the first names alone on that page. Now, please, I do say something. It's not even to get my assignment, but I want you to attempt it. And the essence of giving you this assignment is so that you can practice on your own after class. You can also learn more in the process. So in next class, I'm going to solve this assignment for us, and it's going to bring us to loop. How we handle, or what's the meaning of loop in PHP? How do we handle loop in PHP? Thanks for coming. Have a lovely night rest. See you next week.